Now, I won't lie, y'all. I came into today's show and I got a bunch of different topics that I wanted to talk about and discuss in the one man weave. We had the Paul George suspension, we had trade rumors, we actually had a Cavs and Kings trade. All of that is now shifted, and we might not spend any time on that because since then we had an incredible big trade between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. A trade that is sending Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jock Landale, and Vince Williams Jr. to the Utah Jazz in exchange for Walter Clayton Jr., a lot of juniors, Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 future first round picks. Those picks, a lot of y'all gonna be asking, what exactly are those picks? Those picks are a 2027 first round pick from Utah that is the most favorable between the Cleveland Cavaliers, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Utah Jazz. They're also sending a 2027 first round pick via the Los Angeles Lakers that came from the Russell Westbrook trade in 2023. And then last but not least, a Phoenix Suns 2031 first round pick. All of that is going to Memphis. And I believe Memphis now has like 13 or 14 first round picks over the next 7 years that sets them up to have a large abundance of draft picks. And for me, the first thing that I saw or thought about with this trade is the writing that has now been put on a wall for a Ja Morant trade. To me, this signifies the end of a grit and grind Memphis team that not that long ago was kind of the darlings of the NBA, and we looked at them to be a team that was going to fight for years in the Western Conference and go to Western Conference Finals and maybe get a Finals appearance. And Ja Morant was the face of that, and they had incredible role players like Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bain and a Defensive Player of the Year and Jaren Jackson and an incredible head coach and Taylor Jenkins from the Popovich tree. Everything was looking up, and just that short amount of time we're now ending the era. The last man standing is Ja Morant. And to me, all signs point to Ja Morant being the next domino to fall. And I believe that's what made this trade accelerate and happen. One thing that I do love about the trade is there was no rumors, there was no reportings. We just flat out got a notification that the trade was done and finalized. I think this sets up the Ja Morant trade because of the abundance of picks. I think the Memphis Grizzlies over the last month and some change have done their due diligence around the league of seeing what the value of Ja Morant is. And because the deal hasn't happened, I think that's what's kind of stopped deals in recent weeks and months is that they probably weren't getting the value back that they were anticipating or would have liked for Ja Morant. And then the Trae Young trade happened, and I think that only further hurt the potential market and you know uh, value that you would be getting for Ja Morant. And so now what you do is you do the Jaren Jackson trade. You take your now most valuable asset and you turn him into those assets that sets you up to now move freely with the Ja Morant trade. You don't have to stress yourself out about going back and forth and trying to squeeze out a first round pick or two, or going back and forth to every team about what your package is going to be in the trade. Now you kind of can stress free move on from Ja, and everything else is kind of playing with house's money. And it looks like they're going to clean house. I like the direction that they're going. It hurts to see this incredible young team be split up, but my goodness, to have that amount of picks, 13 first round picks in the next 7 years, to be able to have the intriguing pieces that they already have as far as young talent. I mean, he's been hurt, but Zach Edey, when he's played this year, looked phenomenal. Cedric Howard has been one of my favorite rookies in this class. Last year, you had an incredible snipe in Jalen Wells. They've been a really good drafting team. And even for them to get a Walter Clayton back, I think this positions them to comfortably miss the playoffs. So they'll have another lottery pick to play with. And then they'll be able to move freely from a contractual standpoint. The money on their books is going to be really clear to the point where even as of now, I just saw a report where they're rumored to kind of be the third team that could help facilitate a Domantas Sabonis trade to the Raptors because some team needed to take Jakob Poeltl in his contract. And now Memphis Grizzlies may be in a position to get even more assets by being that team to now funnel and help trades by taking on bad contracts. So I think it sets them up in a way where you trust their ability to draft, you trust their player development, you trust that they have a clean slate. They have a brand new coach who can really embed his philosophy and what he wants to do. And I think the Memphis Grizzlies are setting themselves up to really, have a clean and fresh start. On the other side of this trade, this is exactly the move that I've been wanting from the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz and a few other teams out there, the Washington Wizards earlier this year made a trade where they bought in on Trae Young. And I think it's time for some of these teams that have consistently been at the bottom of the conferences to buy. It's only so many times or so many years you can sell to your fan base a lottery pick. And if you're a team like Utah that has not had the most success with hitting on these lottery picks, it becomes even harder to sell. And so you have the jump that we've seen from Keontae George this year. You have the incredible play that we've gotten from Lauri Markkanen over the years with the Utah Jazz. And it looks like he's at an all-star form this year when he's been on the floor. You have the flashes we've seen from Walker Kessler. You just brought in Ace Bailey. Isaiah Collier is showing you some flashes. Bryce Sensabaugh, you still have some value in. And so to be able to buy in and bring a Jaren Jackson into that fold, I think it accelerates some of that timeline. And for me, I am very interested to see the next moves for them and what they'll look like next year. When Walker Kessler is healthy, you're now looking at a team that's going to have a big front court, a versatile front court, especially offensively with the genius of Will Hardy. Walker Kessler, Jaren Jackson, and Lauri Markkanen. That's almost 3 7-footers in your front line. And we know what Jaren Jackson can do defensively. We know how Walker Kessler can control the glass and what he can do defensively as a rim anchoring center. And then you have this offensive star in Keontae George, who so far his weakness has been defensive. So, but you have this infrastructure around him that can kind of hide some of those defensive flaws or help him better so buy in. And then you still have the upside of an Ace Bailey that you can rely on as a wing scorer to play off of these guys. The Utah Jazz are cooking something nice. They're cooking something nice over there in Utah. And the best thing about this trade was they gave up a lot of those picks that don't come from their wheelhouse. They gave up a Lakers pick. They gave up a Suns pick. They gave up a 2027 pick that is favorable between 3 teams while still being able to keep majority of their own assets and control their future however they see fit. So I'm watching the teams like Utah. I'm watching the teams like Washington, and I'm giving them a round of applause no matter how this is going to look or how it plays off or how it plays out in the next season or so. It still may take some time because the Western Conference is a monstrous conference. And, you can't just snap your fingers to be in the playoff mix. But when you see these teams trying to make moves to get out of the gutter, to climb out of the bottom of the conference, I think it's nothing but applause that should go around. And I'm a big fan of both of these teams making this move. And I'm also, again, a fan of trades being able to go down without 3 weeks of intel and information and leaks and things like that. We just need certain trades to just happen.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.